There comes a moment she never anticipates, a moment of realization that you're no longer waiting. No texts, no chase, no noise, just pure silence. And in that stillness, something hits her harder than any argument possibly could. The thought that maybe, just maybe, you've truly moved on. And that single realization shifts everything. She doesn't see it coming because, for as long as you were reacting, holding on in any capacity, there was still some element of control. But the moment you stop, when you disconnect, not from bitterness but from clarity, that's when everything begins to change. Let's be real. Some women walk away completely, their decision made, no regrets, no second looks. But many, yes, even those who seem unaffected, still carry with them a quiet curiosity, a subtle voice wondering if you'll chase, if you'll fight, if you'll care. And when it becomes undeniable that you won't, that you've chosen peace over chaos, your own path over the past, that voice grows louder. Not always out of longing, sometimes out of confusion, other times from ego, but always with impact. See, moving on isn't just about finding someone new or deleting old photos. Real moving on happens when your energy stops searching for validation in the past. When you're no longer trying to prove your worth, your value, or your point. When the memories of what might have been no longer haunt you. And when a woman sees that in you, truly sees it, it can shake her. Why? Because regardless of how things ended, badly, quietly, or without closure, there's often an unspoken belief that emotional power stays with the one who left first or cared less. And if she thought you were still emotionally tied to her, even in a small way, then your detachment becomes a narrative twist. It challenges the story she had in her mind. Maybe she assumed you'd spiral. Maybe she thought you'd beg. Maybe she believed you'd be chasing her forever. But you didn't. And now in her eyes, you've become a mystery again. And mystery, as we know, draws attention. She might start to question herself. Did she misjudge how much you cared? Was your love ever real? Did she underestimate your strength? Because emotional detachment is strength, not the cold, bitter kind, but the kind that stems from healing, from self-respect, from boundaries, from a deep-rooted self-worth that doesn't seek permission to move forward. And when she witnesses that, a mix of emotions may rise within her. Admiration, regret, surprise, even resentment. Because your silence is louder than any speech you could have delivered. Maybe she never expected you to reach that point. And there's something deeply unsettling about seeing someone heal from a wound you caused, or from the version of yourself you used to be. If she was familiar with a version of you that was reactive, always emotionally available, maybe even desperate to prove your worth, then the detached version of you isn't just unfamiliar, it's powerful. Because it's proof that growth happened, proof that you've outgrown the role she cast you in, that you've evolved. And that kind of growth can be intimidating, especially when you didn't wait around for her to notice, to approve, or to applaud. It means she no longer has emotional influence over you. Her name no longer echoes through your decisions. And that kind of self-reliance, it forces a reckoning with her choices, with how things ended, with the possibility that she may have let go of something valuable. But that doesn't necessarily mean she wants you back. It doesn't mean you should go running if she reaches out. This isn't about rekindling anything. It's about recognizing the strength in emotional evolution. When you've truly moved on, you stop needing a reaction. You're not playing games. You're not posting for attention. You genuinely don't care whether she notices or not. And ironically, that's often when she notices the most. It's a strange paradox. The less you try to be seen, the more visible you become. Because your absence from her world creates a growing presence in her mind. That's the psychology behind detachment. And whether it sparks reflection, regret, or simple curiosity, it always leaves a mark. Because moving on isn't just your personal win, it disrupts the narrative someone else created about you. It shakes assumptions, it demands a new kind of respect. It reshapes how you're seen, especially by someone who thought they already had you figured out. That's unsettling, that's power, that's transformation at its core. She may never say anything, she might never reach out. But what once felt like control and silence might now start to feel like loss. Not because you were flawless, not because you never made mistakes, but because you were real. And real is rare, especially in a world filled with people stuck in cycles. repeating the same emotional patterns, trapped in their own unresolved pain. You broke that pattern. You changed the script, you grew. And that kind of transformation, it's unforgettable. She might test the waters, sending a casual message like nothing ever happened, like nothing ended. Not necessarily because she wants to walk back through the door, but because it's hard to accept the idea that the door might finally be closed. And that's where your strength lies. Not in reopening what nearly broke you, but in safeguarding the peace you fought so hard to create. Because peace isn't found in someone else's return, it's found in your refusal to return to the person you used to be. And that version of you now, the grounded, calm, centered man, is who she feels when she sees that you've moved on. Not just someone who got over her, but someone who grew beyond her. And that leaves an impression most people don't forget. Because when a man moves forward with quiet confidence, not out of anger, not out of spite, but from pure clarity, it unsettles those who haven't done the same. It reveals a distance, a gap between who you are now and where they still remain. And that distance isn't just emotional, it becomes spiritual. It becomes the evidence of growth. She may try to soothe her discomfort with stories, that you never truly cared, that it's all just an act, that your peace is just performance. But deep down she knows. Peace isn't faked, it's felt, it's lived. And when you move like you have nothing to prove, when you speak only when needed, when your joy no longer depends on someone else's attention, it's real. And that reality hits different. Because she once saw you when you were still in pieces, angry, hopeful, fractured. And now all of that is gone. Not hidden, healed. That's the difference. You didn't cover it up, you transformed it. And real transformation can't be ignored. She might try to mirror your growth, post things, act like she's unaffected. But authenticity knows itself. Performance will never replace presence. And you're not performing anymore, you're living. And that's what she feels most, your aliveness without her. And here's the truth. Sometimes that feeling sparks inspiration. Not everyone responds with ego or bitterness. Some women, upon seeing your growth, might feel deep respect, a quiet thankfulness even, because your transformation gave them something to reflect on. You became a mirror, not of what they lost, but of what they could also become if they chose self-honesty. So never believe your healing goes unseen. Never assume your peace is invisible. It radiates in ways you may not always recognize, but others can feel it, especially those who once stood closest to your pain. They feel the shift, the boundary, the elevation. And for a woman who once knew another version of you, this new version will always carry weight. Even if she never speaks on it, even if she never comes back, even if she's moved on herself. Because we don't forget the people who healed in our presence. We don't forget those who outgrew the version of themselves we once knew. So keep going, keep growing, not to be noticed, not to spark a reaction, but because the life you're building now, without her, is the one you were always meant to live. A life where your joy is self-created, where your peace is protected, where your worth isn't waiting for someone else to validate it. And if one day she looks across the emotional distance and feels something, let her. That feeling belongs to her journey, not yours. You've done the work. You've taken your power back. And that is what makes you unforgettable. That's what she feels when she finally realizes you might have truly moved on. What are your views on this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I will personally read all of your comments. And if you seriously want to level up in life, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Stay strong. Until next time.